So we got a new Netflix horror thriller, Betaal, that just premiered today. It involves some zombies. It involves some practical effects. Is it worth checking out? We're going to talk about that and much more. While on a mission to displace the natives of Kampa Forest in order to build a highway, Sorohi and his squad unwillingly unleash the curse of Betaal Mountain. Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back with a brand new Netflix TV series review for Betaal, a new horror thriller involving zombies. I'm gonna let you all know in this review if it's worth checking out. But before we dive into it, as you can see on the screen now, make sure you're following me on all my other social media accounts. If you're new to this channel, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my new content. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, really helps out the channel, but I also really appreciate it. And if and when you've seen this new series, let me know what you all thought about this 4-part series. What were some of your favorite moments? Were you scared at all? Did you like the practical effects? Let's have some conversations in the comments below. So this was actually a series that I put in my queue a couple weeks ago. I want to say I saw the trailer. I'm like, hey, I like zombies. I like, especially a couple years ago when I saw Train to Busan on Netflix. I'm like, you know what? I have some pretty good will with Netflix and zombie projects, even though Train to Busan is not a Netflix original, but this is. So I wanted to give it a shot. I put it in my queue and it premiered today. And as I do with all my review guys, I spend the first half just giving you my initial thoughts, if it's worth checking out. Then I might dive into some of the spoilers more in depth of what I didn't like or what I did like. So that's kind of the format, and I'll let you know when I dive into the spoiler aspect. So if we even get to spoilers, I'm gonna go spoilers. We'll see where this goes. But either way, diving into this review here. This was an interesting show. It was very intriguing, right? It was, I'm always a fan of practical effects, so that's where I want to start this review off. I always appreciate when creators bring practical effects to the big screen, because as we know nowadays, we have the wonderful technology at the disposal of these content creators' hands, so you get the VFX, you get the high quality GI shots, especially on the Netflix platform, where they just give their creators as much money as they possibly need. So I did appreciate the touch of practical effects, especially, again, this is a zombie-like creature. And by the way, we'll talk about that, I guess, towards the end, but I would love to know, for those that have seen the show, am I right by calling this a zombie show or more of a monster type of show? Because they were zombie-like creatures, but they also had vampire-like tendencies. So I'm just going to say monsters. We'll just keep it at monsters. So the monsters, the design of the monsters, the lore of the monsters, the background of these British soldiers and how they came about, and kind of the whole idea of the taking orders and listening to your command. So I kind of appreciated that aspect of the storytelling. There were some characters that I was rooting for, that I was wanting to see how they were able to accomplish certain things and how they were able to survive this kind of situation they were in this village that they're trying to take over. You have these modern day police officers trying to take over this small town so they can build a highway, and in the kind of the workarounds and the characters and the scheming characters and the betrayals that we get in the story. It was very intriguing. I will say this. This was a 4-episode series. It was about a 3.5 hour watch, so it was a lot easier to digest than some of the other shows that I watch on Netflix, which are 10 hours or even longer. So I did appreciate that it starts off, you kind of know the situation, it gets you right into the situation, and you're just on the journey for the rest of the time. And I will say the show does have some nice thrills. It's more of a, horror subjective, right? I didn't find this to be scary at all. It was almost borderline, like, I'm trying to think of a good comparison, and this is no disrespect, this is a classic, but like Evil Dead, the sequels, as they kind of got a little bit thriller-ish vibes in the practical effects and the jokiness of it. Even though I will say, and I'll get into this in my criticisms, I think the show was going for more of a serious tone, but unfortunately I found some of the stuff that the zombies and the characters would say and do was kind of cheesy and I don't know, borderline parody-like. But let me know what you guys thought about that in regards to the scare factor. Did you find it to be scary? Did you find it to be more, I guess, thrilling and somewhat comedic at times? But it had different vibes, different tones, and that's kind of when I get into a little bit of my criticisms here. I found this show to be very unique, very interesting. This is my first time watching an Indian, like, zombie monster-like type of content or type of show. I've seen movies of this type of nature, but never a show. So very interesting. I would be interested to see if there's another season of the show. But the thing that I'm finding a hard time struggling with this overall thoughts is, it kept my interest enough, but there were definitely moments where I thought that the acting wasn't great. There's particular characters that I can think of that I don't want to single out, but the little girl in this show, I thought that she was and I always say with kid actors, they have a lot, right? This might have been her first project. There's lights, cameras. There's this, schedule to go by. There's these lines that got to hit. I didn't find her to be a very well-developed character, and I thought the acting was very mediocre. But not just a little girl. I thought her dad, even though I get the point of the character, I thought that he was, the scheming, greedy guy who was willing to do whatever it takes to get out of the situation they were in. So I see the character, but the performance wasn't great. I will say Vikram, our main guy, I did like his journey in regards to the soldier taking orders, defining orders at certain points, going back to taking orders, and kind of the arc that we get with him. He was nice. I can't think of the character that he was friends with, the young lady. I thought that she was an interesting character. Also the villager, who was one of the more surviving characters, and her dynamic with the gentleman that was live. So there were some characters that I did, take kind to in regards to wanting them to survive and figure out things. But mostly, like I said, Vikram was a nice character. But outside of those, the other surrounding characters, to me, some of the lines, some of the dialogue, some of the cheesiness was definitely highlighted, and it was kind of hard to watch at times. The first episode sets the stage properly, but as the show kind of unfolds, and again, I thought that the action was there, I thought that the thrill factor was there, but when you mix in the horrific elements, the logic of these monsters, again, let me know in the comments. I'm going to probably keep this spoiler free now I'm thinking about it, but let me know in the comments, were they zombies or were they vampires, a mixture of two? Because again, they would and this is just a nitpick, but whenever there's zombie monster-like creatures in shows or movies, and we see our characters shooting them, and then sometimes when you shoot them, they're dead, but other times when you shoot them, it's like it doesn't work. It's just like it didn't even affect them. And then also the logic of the monsters of like when they would attack our main cast and when they would play restraint, and also when we had the character with the gray hair, the main commander, the reason she was, made it to as far as she did baffles me, and some of these characters and some of the decisions. It's just one of those shows, right, where you're either in for the ride, which I was in for the most part, but then when I think about the storytelling, the acting, the development of characters, that's where I kind of put this show in, like, it wasn't as entertaining as it could have been. And it was something very interesting about this show too. The show had some gruesome moments where characters were being ripped apart and things of that nature, but I really wanted it to push the envelope a little bit more, right? As I had mentioned, Train to Busan, one of my favorite horror movies of all time. The zombies, the monsters, and those were legit zombies. They were relentless, and I just loved the brutality of it. But this show kind of held their monsters back. It was just like, and also, again, I applaud the practical effects of the creatures, but sometimes the design, the red eyes, was very kind of like jarring at times. It just kind of took me out of the moment. Again, I found some of those moments to be more funny than I did horrific and scary. But again, those are just little kind of, nitpicking things there. But this is, again, my first time watching an Indian show that involves monster-like creatures. It had its thrill factors. It had its characters that I enjoyed. It had its intrigue where I sat down and watched all 4 episodes, even though it wasn't easy at times. But I will say, give the show a shot, guys, because, again, if you're a fan of the monster-like movies and creatures, if you're a fan of characters being trapped in confined spaces and try to figure out what's going on, if you're a fan of some lore, some history, and also diversity. Again, this is my first time really diving into an Indian horror type of show, and I'm going to try to seek out more and see what else is available on this platform and other platforms. So definitely give me some recommendations. But all in all, I would say give it a shot. You might like it more than I did. It was just a lot of the storytelling, the lore, the logic of the creatures, monsters, vampire, werewolf, or vampire, zombie-like creatures wasn't all the way developed. Also, our characters weren't that developed besides Vikram. Everyone else was just kind of there, and we really didn't learn much about them. And, you find out more about the British Army as the show goes on, but I found that to be a little kind of like, okay. And also the ending, again, this kind of opens itself up for a season 2, which would be interesting if they go that route. But again, I think this was it was interesting enough to keep me intrigued for almost 4 hours. But I don't know if I would necessarily revisit that show. But if there was a season 2, I might give it a shot. But nevertheless, as I kind of wrap this up, guys, let me know if you checked out this new show. If you liked it more than me, that's awesome. Let me know some of the things you liked. If there were some things you didn't like, let me know in the comments. But as always, let's just have some fun conversations and talk about this show. So as always, make sure to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my content. Yesterday, I had such a fun time with my guests. I did a 40-year anniversary anniversary watch along for The Shining, so check that out. I will be watching my HBO shows as regularly as I do on the Sunday nights. I know this much is true with Mark Ruffalo. I will be reviewing that tonight, and also the finale for Run, so keep an eye out for that video. Next weekend, I'm going to be doing my first Q&A Ask Me Anything in kind of celebration of my 3,000 subscribers that I just recently got, so keep an eye out for that. Check the community tab so you know when I'm going to be putting that video out. But hope you guys are staying safe. Again, let me know your thoughts on this show, and we'll see you on the next video.